guys, welcome to my channel. So today's video I'm doing something a little bit different than my normal like fashion and lifestyle, but I feel like this could still be considered like a lifestyle. So today, as you can see from the title, I am going to share with you my top 3 shows from all 4 of my streaming platforms. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Charlie. I love doing any type of entertaining, whether it is sharing some lifestyle tips with you, hygiene, plus size fashion, and home decor. And now I would love to share with you some of the shows that I've been loving. So I'm an avid reader typically, but I pride myself on really finding good television shows, movies, documentaries. I'm not so big in documentaries, but I do love the occasional documentary. So today I'm strictly going to share television shows, but I could also share movie recommendations for you if you're in like a TV rut, in a movie rut, or in a book reading like a slump. I definitely can share some of my favorites. So if that sounds interesting, I would love to have you. My last video is a vlog of my family. We went like glamping, and if you are interested in seeing that, I will definitely share my family vacation in the cards up above for you. It was a really awesome vacation. We went to Delaware and we stayed in like a resort for camping. They had regular tents, RVs, and then we stayed in cabins. It is really cool. We had a golf cart, we had a private beach and 2 pools, and I really recommend the area. And I show a little more about that. And I even take the ferry twice by myself, which for some people might not be a big deal, but I am someone who is very dependent on my husband for things like that. So I was very excited to do it by myself. So if today's video, like I said, I am sharing 3 shows from 4 different streaming platforms. So my main 4 platforms, I don't have like a million, but I do Paramount Plus, HBO, Hulu, and Netflix. I'm not going to share with you like the typical shows. Like I of course recommend Stranger Things, and of course I am right now we're going through Game of Thrones, and it's the first time I've watched it and it's amazing. No spoilers, please. We're on season 5. I definitely obviously could recommend these things, Pretty Little Liars, shows like that. Of course they're amazing, but I wanted to share some other shows just in case you're maybe in a I'm always like thinking of reading. If you're in like a TV show rut, I can share movies. I love movies, and I've seen some amazing movies if that would interest you. And if you're in a reading slump, I definitely could share that. I know I'm not like a booktuber, but I am always have my nose in a book. So today, like I said, I'm going to share 3 shows from each one of those streaming platforms. I also have Amazon Prime. Obviously it comes free when you subscribe to Amazon Prime, so I have that, but I don't watch it as often, but I definitely can find recommendations for you there. And I have Disney Plus. Anything on Disney Plus is amazing. It's more of a children's like streaming platform, but I enjoy it obviously because I'm like a kid at heart. But these shows I'm going to share you aren't in any like they're not just strictly true crime. They're a bunch of different things. I'm somebody who I love like a dark comedy. I love black comedy. I love when there's humor and horror. I find even like in goofy shows that maybe other people wouldn't like, I always kind of find the humor in things or appreciate, even if it's not the best of shows. But I feel like these shows are amazing. So the very first platform we're going to start with is my Paramount Plus. I'm just going to give you a brief talk about what the show is. I'll put a little picture up so you know what I'm talking about in case maybe it's new to you. Or maybe you were thinking about watching it, and I will show you what I would rate it out of 10 stars. Obviously, these are going to be highly rated because these are some of my favorites. So let's get on to it. So the very first thing I'm going to go through is Paramount. These are not everything. I only picked 3, so we weren't here all day. So the very first thing I'm going to recommend to you is Evil. Something about me, I have grown up in Catholic school till I was in about 10th grade. So I was a devout Catholic until I realized that it wasn't for me and it wasn't fitting my lifestyle. But I love religious shows. I don't know why. My sisters always find it very strange about me. Anything with exorcism, demons, anything with the Catholic Church, I find it very interesting. And the show Evil is incredible. When it first came out on television, it was on like your regular like ABC or something, or Fox, I don't remember. But then I guess they were picked up by Paramount Plus, so the next 2 seasons are a little more graphic, a little more nudity. So any show that I'm recommending, I definitely wouldn't watch with children unless that's whatever you feel comfortable with. I would definitely say 14 and up, but the show Evil is incredible. If you love demonic possession, you love the Catholic Church, anything like that, I think you're gonna like it. So the first season is more tamed, I would say, compared to the next 2 seasons, just because they could get away with a little more with Paramount Plus, but I love it. So the very brief synopsis is you have David, he is a priest, or sorry, he's becoming a priest. So he's doing all his catechism work and he's training to become a full-fledged priest. I believe he had a sex addiction, and I believe he was in the army and had a lot of issues, and he turned to God and had like some spiritual awakening and decides he wants to be a priest. Then you have Kristen, who's a little more skeptical, and I believe she is in the field where she is either a psychiatrist or psychologist. So they bring her in to do like the mental aspect of it, investigating the, the mind part of it. And then you have Ben, who's like more techie. You always have like that tech guy, and he's definitely the major skeptic, and they just work well as a team. They're very nice, like their banter is really cool. They don't always get along, but they just work really well together. And what the three of them do is investigates like hauntings and demon possessions to see if there is any reason to bring in an exorcist to have someone have an exorcism. It is a really fun show, definitely graphic, definitely not for people that are sensitive, a lot of sexual situations, but it is amazing. So basically the three of them go around and investigate alleged demon possessions, and then you have David, who comes in from like the aspect of the church. You have Ben, who's more of a skeptic, but the tech guy who kind of debunks everything and finds a reason for everything. And then you have Kristen, who kind of reasons and tries to find maybe like a medical reason. It's an amazing show and I recommend it. Definitely gonna say I want to give it a 10 out of 10, but I want you to kind of like, nothing's perfect. So I'm going to say it's a 9 out of 10, one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. And I'm so excited to finish season 3. Okay, so we just finished the first season of this show, and we're going to start season 2. This show is so good, and it's Why Women Kill. Again, this is Paramount Plus. It is so amazing. So you have different timelines. So you have the 50s, I believe the 80s, and then current. So you have the 50s, which is your typical, you have Sheila and her husband, who are these typical 1950s. The wife is very oppressed, the husband makes the money, he's the breadwinner, and they buy this mansion. Then you go into the 1980s, where you have this amazing couple. She's this gorgeous Asian woman and he is a British man, and they are in the same home as the previous people from the 50s. So the house is the same throughout the whole series. It's just 3 different timelines. And then you have this couple in the current time, who she is a lawyer and he's kind of like a recovering addict who is trying to get famous, writing a script for television, and they have an open marriage. And it's basically why women end up killing their husbands. It's a black comedy. It is so funny. The actors are so incredible. I highly recommend it. I think you will love it. If you like black comedies and you like when women are the main like character, and I mean, it does have a little bit of murder and a little bit of like drama to it, but it is funny and we absolutely love it. So if you've seen Why Women Kill, let me know down below. I think it is a winner, and I'm gonna say it's an 8 out of 10. Absolutely love that show so much. The acting was incredible, and I'm gonna tell you, my favorite timeline was the 50s with Sheila and her husband. She was amazing and I loved her. And last but not least, for Paramount Plus, this should have been my number 1. This show is a 10 out of 10. I have said this in favorites video, and it's 1883. It is one of my favorite. It is probably hands down my favorite show of all time. Nothing will ever beat it. It's basically a family who is on the Oregon Trail, and they go, well, it's basically like immigrants who come here. They're trying to get through the Oregon Trail, so the chief and his partner hire this family to help because he's very experienced with this, and it's tragic and beautiful, and I don't even know how to describe it. It is one of the best shows I've ever seen. It is tragic and beautiful and funny and filled with action. I love it. It is very historically accurate in my opinion. I feel like the costumes are gorgeous. I absolutely love the main character. She's a young girl. Her name is Elsa, which I love. She's young. I think she's 15 or 16. She's this like free spirit, and she wants to be a cowboy. She doesn't want to be in dresses and be girly. She wants to ride with her father and keep the cattle, and it is incredible. Their journey's incredible. It is tragic because not many people live, and they show that aspect of it. It is a little graphic, but for that reason alone, I'm telling you, it's a 10 out of 10, one of the best shows I've ever seen. Okay, so the next streaming platform is Hulu. I do Hulu Live as like my main television, so I watch a lot of television, live TV on that. But the very first show I'm going to recommend, now I don't want anyone to be offended, so if you watch the show, definitely please read up on it first. It is about sex workers. It is definitely about brothels. There's a lot of violence and sexual situations, so if that is not for you, I would definitely move on. I'm somebody who absolutely loves period piece shows. So like 1883, this show, anything that is set in different time periods, I absolutely love. I always go to the place where it says time periods and I look through those shows and I find some really great ones. There's one, anyway, it doesn't matter. We're not doing that because I will get off on a tangent about other things. So this show is called Harlots. It is set in the late 17th century. It's in a brothel and it's run by like cunning women. These women run the brothels and they want to climb up in society, whether that's through sex work or through marriage. They want to manipulate men, and it's really, really good. So the main character is the Wells family. So it's three women, the mother and the two daughters. Unfortunately, she sells her daughter into these two girls into sex work, but her youngest daughter, she would like to marry for money, so marry somebody who's more well up. There's so much drama. It is definitely like a more mature show, but it is so good. It is all about sex work in the 17th century, the late 17th century, and like I said, it's women running these brothels. They are cutthroat, a lot of violence, but it is really good. I know I might not be selling you on these shows, but I'm gonna say it's like an 8 out of 10. It's for that type of show, it's really good. There's a lot of drama. There is a lot of women manipulating men. It's really good, and I definitely recommend it. So the next show I'm going to suggest, again, is another period piece. Like I said, I love stuff set in like 17th and 18th century, and it's The Alienist. Now, I read the book before I watched the show. You definitely don't need to, because I feel like the television show is very accurate to the actual book. Now, I haven't read the second book, but I've definitely seen the second season. So it's basically about a bunch of transgender children, essentially male to female. They're working as sex workers. They start to be murdered, and then you have the alienist, which I believe back then was a psychologist working with a female detective, which was very unusual in that time period, and I love her, and it's Dakota Fanning. I literally love her as the lead character. And then you have somebody who works for like the New York Times, working to solve this crime. So it's a very unusual show. The book was very good, but the show is incredible. Season 2 is amazing. Highly recommend it. Like I said, I'm just giving you a little synopsis or we'd be here all day. The Alienist is an amazing show. I'm going to say a 9 out of 10. Again, when there's a strong female lead, I love it. She is one of the, well, she's not necessarily a detective. She is a secretary, but she's still working to become a policewoman, I would say, or a detective essentially, and she's working with the alienist and the guy that prints the newspaper in order to solve these crimes against children. They are children that are biologically male, dressing as female to sell their bodies, and they are young, and the crimes are gruesome, and they investigate to find out who the murderer is. It's really, really good. If you like psychological thrillers, it's incredible, and again, it's a time period piece, which I love. So the next one is a Hulu original. I read the book from Stephen King, and it's 11/22/63. So the book obviously is so much better than the television show, but they did a really nice job with the TV show. It's a little bit different, and they definitely took some liberties of their own. But if you liked the book, I definitely recommend giving the show a try. Don't go into it with any type of like high expectations as far as like it really following the true narrative of the book. Like I said, they do take a little bit of liberties and change a little bit. The lead character is played by James Franco, and at first I didn't know how I feel about that because I'm not someone who is a big fan of him. He's not my favorite, but he did a really nice job. And basically the premise of the show and the book was there is a diner with a time capsule, and the owner of the diner gets James Franco to go back to the year 63 to stop the Kennedy assassination. But in order to do that, it's like the butterfly effect. Basically, that's what the book kind of is about, is like the butterfly effect, how one thing in history changes, it can affect everything in the future. And he struggles with it because he ends up falling in love in that time. From that time era, he falls in love with somebody. He becomes a teacher there because he's a teacher in real life, so he starts teaching in 1963. Very unusual and a really neat take on the butterfly effect. So basically, like I said, he gets in this time capsule in a little diner in order to stop the Kennedy assassination, but everything goes crazy. It's a really neat show. I recommend reading the book if you have time because it has a lot more details and it goes into, like I said, a lot more detailed. Both are really good. I like them and I recommend them. I'm gonna say I'll give this show like a 6.5 out of 10, which isn't bad. I don't want that to deter you from watching it, but if you were looking at it, it's definitely really neat and it's really good for a Hulu original. So now we are gonna move on to some of my Netflix recommendations. So if you've watched any of my videos, this is not gonna be any surprise to you, but I am gonna recommend Anne with an E. This show is a 10 out of 10. This is a family show. This is something you could watch with, I feel like, any kid over the age of 8. Not that a younger child couldn't watch it, but I don't know if they would understand it if they're, they like little kid shows. This show is so amazing. If you like Anne of Green Gables, you are gonna love this rendition of Anne with an E. It's amazing. I'm so sad that they're done with it. When I was younger, my grandmother and I used to watch Pollyanna. We would watch Avonlea. We watched Anne of Green Gables, anything like that. Again, with the period pieces, her and I loved, so knew I was gonna love it. And the girl that plays Anne is so, I know some people didn't love her character, but I love her. I love Anne. I love Marilla. I love Matthew. I love everything about this show. I think it's educational. It's historically accurate. It is gorgeous and it is just truly spectacular, and I'm gonna say it's a 10 out of 10. If you're looking for something for family friendly, I recommend it. I'll tell you what, I don't know why it kind of reminds me of like the perfect show to watch snuggled up at Christmas time or in the winter. Amazing. Highly recommend Anne with an E. The next show I'm going to recommend is more of a true crime. I feel like it can be loosely based off of like a true story, and it's Mindhunters. It basically follows that famous detective that worked all of those serial killer cases. The show is extremely graphic, so if you're sensitive, I would definitely kind of read up on it. I ended up reading, I wish I could remember the name of the guy. Let me pause this and see if I can find the name of the actual detective. Hi you guys, so I accidentally deleted the clip where I talked about Mindhunters. I think I got up to the part where I talked about wanting to know, to cut the camera to see who the author was, and it's John Douglas. I should have known that. I'm a fool. Now listen, if you read the book and you're like, ooh, I don't know about the show, definitely don't let that guy kind of deter you. He's definitely very egotistical in the book, to the point where I almost DNF'd the book itself because it was so hard to get through his like how cool he is and how strong he is and how he beats people up and this and that, and less about the true crime aspect. Now, when you watch the show, it's more of the true crime aspect. So you have Holden, who is this young detective. He's real good looking. And then you have Bill, who I think is also very good looking, but he's a little more older. He's raising a child that I believe has mental disabilities. I'm not sure. He's special needs. And they struggle really difficulty at home, and he puts so much time into his job. And then you have Wendy, who's a psychologist, and the three of them work together, and they kind of develop the word serial killer, and you're gonna see the development and all the stuff that goes into creating the behavioral science unit, and with profiling and how it helped them to realize what an actual serial killer was, how they kind of like keyed that term and everything. It's really interesting and very educational. So if you're looking for something that's true crime educational, and it's the developmental, it's like the late 70s, so it's the development of the behavioral science unit. That's what that show is about, and it's really, really interesting. It is a little graphic, so it might be sensitive for some people, but I definitely recommend giving it a try if you love things. It's kind of like Criminal Minds meets Law and Order, but a little more graphic, obviously, because it was on Netflix. So I'm going to be going into Nurse Ratched, the show Ratched on Netflix, that's about Nurse Ratched from One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I don't know how much of the clip I lost, so if it just seems like I jump right into that clip, that's why. So I'm going to go into talking about the show Ratched, which is another ace. So 10 out of 10, absolutely recommend. Mindhunters. Even if you dislike the book, like I said, definitely give it a chance, because it's not the same thing. I know that guy, I don't mean to offend anyone, because I know there's like diehard fans for John Douglas. Maybe the guy is definitely different, or maybe he was just really young when he wrote the book. But goodness gracious, that was awful to get through. And I read the book with the Charlie Man, what is it, Helter Skelter. That was a real long book to get through, and that wasn't so bad. So I've read other like true crime, nonfiction true crimes, and that one was just like one of the worst for me. So definitely let me know what you think. Like I said, if it seems like I just jump into another clip, that's why, but I will get on to the rest of the video. Okay, so for the show Ratched, you have Nurse Ratched, who is a young woman who is the head nurse. She applies to become the head nurse of this psychiatric hospital, but she has dark ulterior motives. She wants to be there because her brother is being brought in as a patient, and she wants to try to get him free. That's all I want to say about that, because I don't want to give away too much. It has Sarah Paulson, like I said. It has some characters from American Horror Story, which is amazing. I wish I could remember who plays her brother, because I believe he plays Dandy on American Horror Story, and I love him. It is dark, it is twisted, it does have a tiny bit of comedy, and it's right around the time where they started to do terrible experiments on psychiatric patients, and it has a lot of dark twists and turns. I hope they come out with a season 2, but again, that is Ratched. If you love Sarah Paulson, I think you're gonna love this show. I know a lot of people kind of like didn't love it, but I did, and I definitely would give it a 7 out of 10. It was a lot of fun to watch. Again, it was set like I think in the 40s or 50s, really, really good, and I love that show. I think you should definitely check it out. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to give you 3 recommendations for my HBO. So I could definitely recommend Game of Thrones. Like I said, anything like that, I love it so much. Like I said, I'm on season 5, but I'm going to go with the first show that I want to recommend. It came out, I believe, in 2014, so a little while ago. So maybe newer people to HBO haven't seen it, and it's True Detective. I want to kind of get this one out of the way because it's a little harder to explain. So it has Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson as the 2 lead detectives. They play Russ. That one is Matthew McConaughey, and then you have Marty, who is Woody Harrelson. They are completely different characters. They are detectives in, I believe, 1995. So it's duo timeline, so it's current and 1995. So you have Russ, who is like somebody who originally was on like undercover narcotics, and he has like drug flashbacks, and he's also currently using drugs in the year 95. And he's very by the books, but strange the way he does things. No, he's not by the books. I should say his methods of investigation are more unconventional. And then you have Marty, who's more like your typical detective, like the cliche, by the books, cheats on his wife, things like that. I don't want to say that's all detectives, but detective shows. But they end up really working well together, and they start to investigate a ritualistic killing on a prostitute. That's what they call her, sex worker. I don't want to offend anybody. And they end up having like really dark like history and background. So they bring them back in the year 2012, about 17 years later, where they are brought back in to rediscuss the ritualistic killing, because they believe they caught the guy, and I think things are starting to happen again. So they're questioning like what actually happened, and they haven't talked in all these years. Russ is very different. He drinks a lot, he smokes, he grows his hair out. And then you have Marty, who's still kind of like straight edged, but he's divorced his wife, so they're just trying to figure out what happens. The show is really, really intense and dark. Definitely could upset people, so definitely kind of read up on it, but True Detective is really, really good. I'm somebody who loves Woody Harrelson, so I loved this show. Definitely dark, kind of like Mindhunters in a way. As far as detective shows, I'm somebody who absolutely loves detective shows like that. I love SVU, Law and Order, anything like that I love. So this show was right up my alley. What I love about it is that the detectives kind of narrate the story, each of their, side of the story. Both of them have like really dark, twisted backgrounds. So I definitely recommend it if you're looking for like a really good psychological thriller. Definitely recommend True Detective. So the next show I'm going to recommend is another dark thriller, and then I'm going to end on something a little lighter, is Sharp Objects. And that book was originally written from Gillian Flynn. The book really blew my mind. It was short, so it kept my attention span. It was really, really fast, so I wasn't sure what to expect from the show itself, but it was incredible. I'm sure many people have watched it. If you are a fan of Gillian Flynn, you're definitely going to love this one. The lead is Amy Adams, and she does an incredible job playing like this dark, sad character, because usually she plays, in my opinion, mostly like kind of upbeat. No, I guess that's not always true. She does play some dark characters, but this one's like really, really dark and unusual for her, and I loved it. It's basically a family down south that have so many secrets, that typical like secrets kill, those types of things where people keep secrets and it just leads to more and more problems. And then you have the lead character who is a news reporter, but she suffers from severe mental health issues, and she is sent back to her hometown where her family is like old money, and she's sent back in order to investigate 2 murders on young girls. And the guy that runs the newspaper thinks that it will help her heal a little bit, but it only makes her mental health way worse. She's an alcoholic. She just got out of a mental hospital for self-harm. It's very dark and twisted, but it is so good. And I almost feel like sometimes the shows aren't as good as the book, but this is comparable. It's great, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Definitely think you should check out Sharp Objects, especially, like I said, if you like psychological thrillers, you're going to love this one. It is going to give you a run for your money, because the twist at the end is so sick and twisted and something that you're not going to expect. And you're going to be like, whoa, that is strange. And whoever came up with this is sick, but it is so good. So I definitely recommend Sharp Objects. So last but not least, the last one that I'm going to recommend is Julia. I am such a Julia Child fan. When that movie came out with Amy Adams, there you go. See, more lighthearted, where she played the lady Julie, who wrote a blog about recreating Julia Child's recipes from her French cooking. That movie is one of my top all-time favorites. It is so lighthearted, so fun, and if you love cooking, you're gonna love that. And now they're doing a show about Julia Child. It is so good, so funny. The lead character is so amazing who plays Julia Child, and I recommend that one. And I'm going to tell you, it's a 9 out of 10. It's so accurate. It's so cool to watch her life and how she got on television and how she bribed people to get onto television, because women weren't on that type of cooking show like that in that time. It is so amazing. I love shows set in the 1950s. She's incredible. I love her husband. Everything about the show is lighthearted and fun, definitely family friendly, and definitely give it a watch if you have a chance, and let me know if you've seen any of the episodes. So those are all of my recommendations for television shows. If you're in a slump, if you would like to see some of my movie recommendations, I definitely can leave them for you or make a video for you about them. And if you want any book recommendations, definitely let me know. So I hope this was just a fun, lighthearted video. I hope you enjoyed this. Definitely let me know down below any movie recommendations, any television, book, anything. Like I said, the only thing I don't like drool over is like romantic books, but I'm definitely willing and open for anything. Like I said, I'm just now getting into more sci-fi. But I love everything from comedy, black comedy, psychological thrillers, horror. I love it all. So if you have some good recommendations, leave them down below, even for other people. And I will see you. Let me know if you want to see a movie recommendation. I will leave all of my social media down below for you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.